It's time for the Creator Town Hall here on Studio Live today. Welcome, welcome, welcome. And we got something cool this week because instead of you having to listen to me prattle on for the next hour, we've got ourselves a very special guest all the way from the UK. It is Mr. Andy Goldsby. What's going on, Andy? How you going, mate?
Hey Pete, how are you? You keeping
Oh,
well?
clearly, I am because that was the most energetic intro I've ever done. So I must be pretty excited for our chat here today, mate. For the 4 or 5 people in this community who don't know who you are and what you do, what's a 30-second elevator pitch? We're gonna get all like commercial here. What's your elevator pitch on the Andy Goldsby experience, mate?
I'd probably go and say he's a bit folk rock, he's a bit psychedelic, he's a bit indie, he's a bit classical music, he's a bit of everything really, and he's very Hawaiian shirts.
He is very Hawaiian shirt, mate. You are bringing it with that shirt today. You're out there in your what do you call that? Is that a conservatory? Is that a sunroom? What's
This
that part of the
this
house?
actually is where all the magic happens. And apologies to everybody with my shadows today. Sod's Law, the day I go live is the day that we actually get decent
Sun,
sunshine in March in the
right?
UK. But no, this is the room where, and we'll talk about the Indigo Sunsets in a bit, but
Oh yeah.
this is where I do most of my recording in this very little space we're in now. This is kind of my tropical safe space.
I love it. Yeah, very, very tropical and yeah, looking sharp there today, mate. So we will be talking. Welcome to everyone who's here live. Welcome to those here on the replay. If you want to learn about Andy and his music, jump down in the description because there's a bunch of links down there you can check out on YouTube and on the Song Whips and all over the internet. And we're talking today about live and studio because when I thought about this topic, I'm like, there's one man I want to talk to because there's one guy who's done a heap of work live, and then during the last 2 years and the buggery we've all been through, has had to do a whole lot more of recording and in the studio work, and that is you. You and the Indigo Sunsets, you and Stu and the Indigo Sunsets, you've kind of gone from like live band to studio band back to live band. So in a nutshell, mate, what has that been like? Can you take us through the basics of the journey there? And for those that don't know the backstory, who and what are the Indigo Sunsets, and what happened over the last sort of few years that sort of led you to where you are now?
Wow, I mean, we could rattle on for hours about me and Stuart's past history. I mean, we've known each
Yeah.
other since we were teenagers. Yeah, before lockdown, we were predominantly a covers band playing,
Mm.
yeah, some decent venues, but we're just going out there playing live. Sometimes we're fortunate we get a couple of gigs a weekend, and it was a hobby band, but we took it pretty seriously.
Yeah.
We're getting functions and things, going out playing everybody else's music. And then
Mm.
lockdown happened, and obviously nobody could go out and play music anymore. And we noticed people started doing these little collaboration videos where they were jumping on and filming themselves playing a song and then passing it to their mate, and they'd play
Mm.
their part. And we did one where we were literally just videoing each other, sharing the songs, and then trying to sync it up in iMovies. So it was kind of roughly in time.
Nice.
Yeah, this is wonderful, aren't we? Great. We've just done your song by Elton John on the iPhones.
Love it.
And, uh, and then Stu, funnily enough, was the one who started looking into GarageBand a little more seriously.
Mm.
We both got them on our iPhones, and he said, "Oh, do you want to start recording into GarageBand?" And I was like, "Well, no, not really, because for me it was just something that you just played drums on, and it was for 5-year-olds."
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, he took some convincing, and obviously Stu found your channel, Pete,
Mm.
and then subsequently, we found the likes of Jade Starr's channel as well, and that's where we started learning.
Mm.
And we're kind of like, well, we've wanted to write, but we've never really actually sat down together and actually started to formulate our own music. And
Mm.
Stu had that song Chapter 6, which I think first appeared on your very first YML, Your Music
It
Live,
did
Pete.
indeed. Yeah. Old school.
And
Yeah.
Stu's such a great songwriter, and he knows melody, and that really shines through what he's doing. And he did that, and then said, "Oh, do you want to have a go with that song you've written?" And I did that one that appeared on the albums called "Sirens Don't Sing for Me," and I think that appeared on your second your music live show.
Yep.
And then we were kind of hooked from there. Really, it was a case of right, well, let's do a couple more. And then a couple more turned into, should we turn this into an album? Which eventually meant that by October 2020, The Comeback, which is our first album and only album so far, was released, and we were really proud of it and really amazed by how people responded to our music, because I mean we're just two blokes who go out and gig and and like to think we can hold a tune, and then suddenly people are actually enjoying what we've produced.
Well,
and then we'll move on in a minute to talk about where we've been after that. But really,
I was going to say,
yeah, the turning point really was obviously lockdown and us trying to find a musical avenue that no longer existed to us. And I think if it hadn't been for lockdown, we'd still be just literally pumping out other people's music at weddings.
Well, it's inspirational, and look, I know that there's many people that are watching here live and that are watching on the replay that are just like, "Hey, that's Andy from the Indigo Sunsets," and like when I first spoke to you, and we'll jump back to this, and then we'll continue talking. We'll say good day to the folks who are here live, because you were on the channel in July of 2020, and I'll embarrass you and Stu by bringing this up here. So this is you folks having a chat to me, and just before we started talking here on the show tonight, I said, Andy, what happened here? It looks like you've dropped about 40 pounds and you've given them to me. So you've obviously been on a bit of a personal journey over the last 18 months as well, mate. Before we go back into music, I got to ask. I mean, I know the answer to this, but it's an interviewer's prerogative to say, what have you been up to, Andy? Have you been getting fit and making us all look bad here? What's all this then?
Well, I did something. I completely forgot I did this. Something popped up on my Facebook feed saying enter the ballot for the London Marathon, and I was like, oh yeah, I'll enter that. And I sent the email off, and I didn't even mention it again. And I've heard on the grapevine you've got about less than 1% chance of getting in through the ballot for the London Marathon. And then you can imagine my shock. February 2021, I get the email saying you're in.
You're in.
I was like, oh, right. Now you've got to bear in mind at this point I was just under 20 stone. I don't know what that is in pounds for our American audience, but I was
even know what it is in kilos, mate.
Big old unit.
Big unit.
Yeah,
a bit like me.
I haven't run since school days either. I'm 43 years old, ex-smoker, drink far too much, eat the wrong foods, no physical exercise. So I thought I'll do the Couch to 5K program. Let's see how I get on with that, and then I've built up from there. And I'm probably the proudest thing I've done in my life was I completed the London Marathon in October, and I'm now doing the Brighton Marathon on the 10th of April. So I've kept the journey going. And who'd have known? I said this to you earlier, Pete. It take me to 43 to realise I'm like the Duracell bunny when it comes to running. It's mental, but yeah, that's been my personal journey.
Well, it's bloody inspirational. I did check in with Andy that I'm like, look, I'm going to embarrass you, mate, because I'm going to talk about this, because I know, because we're friends on Facebook and I follow you and I see your journey, and I'm just like, oh, this has been pretty inspirational, because as someone who, like many people, has put on the COVID-19, like myself, sorry, it's going to get flagged now, this video. I'm like, no, the COVID-19 pounds. Oh, okay, it's fine. Then I'm like, yeah, this is super motivational, because if there's one thing I can say about those of us that sit around recording in our audio cave, it's the drinking and the smoking and the sitting on your ass a lot of the time can kind of have a bit of a negative effect. And I think, and we'll talk a bit later about, producing music. And one thing I've noticed about you lately is, and we'll talk about the live and the studio stuff, but you're collaborating with people, you're producing, like you'll just say, oh, I've got a song in the works, Pete. And then a week later, you're like, here's the completed song. And you're just throwing it at me for your music live. And I'm like, where the hell did this come from, Andy? You're just producing like, again, the Energizer Bunny. I think you've just, the level of energy you've had for your music creation seems to have also increased and exponentially as your physical energy goes. Is that fair to say? Like, is there a link between that? And like, are you more motivated and inspired to just get on and get doing things in the studio now that you've found your way to get sort of more physical energy?
I'd say it certainly helps. I mean, I'm that sort of person anyway, who when I sort of go in for something or want to do something, it's all of me going into it, and I'm gonna give it absolutely my best. And I'll go away and I'll research, read up, and I'll make sure that I give myself the right time. And I suppose doing the running as well has shown me that most things are possible. And
Mm,
everybody says this whole thing. I'll talk about music again in a moment, but
yeah.
if I can do it, genuinely anybody can. I was the most unhealthiest person you can possibly meet. And what that's kind of transformed into I think it works for anything in life. If you want something hard enough, whether it's music,
Mm,
whether it's fitness, whether it's whatever, you've got to put the time and you've got to put the effort into it. But the rewards of doing that is what spurs you on to do more. And with the music as well, I mean, we'll talk about solo work in a moment, but I'm
mm,
doing that just purely for me to connect with other musicians. I'm not doing it to be
yeah.
recognized for being a solo musician. I'm part of the Indigo Sunsets. That's what I do. The reason I've been doing the solo stuff is for A, to keep my hand in, but B, to keep that connection. And that connection goes further when I'm able to also collaborate with other people. I mean, I was genuinely blown away when Auntie G asked me for the first time to play
Mm,
on one of her songs, and I was genuinely thinking, well, wow, am I good enough for that? Does she really enjoy my music, and does she think I've got a place in her music? And to be asked that was a
mm.
real honor. It really was, and it was great for me to work with somebody else and actually see their work patterns and their process as well. And yeah, I really enjoyed doing what I did with Gertrude.
Outstanding, and yeah, like that was a perfect answer because I think you're right that a lot of the times we focus on what you can't do, and there's not actually much you can't do these days. And I know a lot of people are getting frustrated because they're like, I can't play out live, or I've never played live, or I don't know how to take my studio work, and I don't know how to promote it. And we're going to talk about all of that. So don't worry, we're going to get into all of that. We're only 10 minutes in, and we got another 45 minutes. So I will say, if you do have questions for Andy. Please do go ahead and put the word question in front of your comment for those that are here live. If you're watching on the replay, just drop a comment down below. I know myself and Andy will be there in the comments answering your questions. It's night time for me, but Andy will be up for hours. He'll get back from his run later and he'll be like there answering comments. So you'll be all good there. Let's go say good day to the folks who are here live. Mr. Glenn Clark from across the ditch in New Zealand saying g'day. Thank you for joining us, Glenn. Mr. Gregory
I love
O'Sullivan
Glenn.
here in Australia, Melbourne town. The one and only Scott SM Borthwick saying g'day there. We have Clayton Von Kluge. The inimitable Jade Star is here live as well. Some bloke called Stu Cash. Now, Stu Cash is Stu Cashmore, but he lost his more. And was that me? Was that my doing that I started calling him Stu Cash and he just went, right, I'm going with it then?
I've been through your wardrobe, Stu.
Got dressed in the dark. Mimo Japan, out of, funnily enough, Japan. Hello, Mimo, one of the great moderators from Mike's channel over on Creative Source as well. We've got Mike and Dawn, Janice, over in the, it's 6 a.m. there. Yeah, there you go. I was going to say, it's very early for our friends in the US and Canada, so we do appreciate anyone who is tuning in from there. We've got Infarction, our friend Brian, over in Europe, so it's a good time for you. Maffey's Garden up in Queensland, g'day to you. I hope the recovery's going all right there. It's been lots of, I don't know if you've seen it. I don't know if it makes the news in the UK, but it's been raining like buggery, as we'd say here in Queensland and New South Wales. And yeah, if we don't have problems with fires 2 years ago, we got floods this year. So yeah, it's always a challenge here in Australia. So I hope you're well. Hope you're well up there, Matt. And who else have we got here? I think I've covered everyone. Conspiracy Media. Thank you for being here. And if anyone that I haven't said good day, Joe Glenn over there in Canada. Hello to you. And we've got Bear, Tremor Bear in the US who can't sleep. There you go. There's two bears. He's here on both accounts, so clearly can't sleep. We've got Guzzo of Oz, who's also up there in Queensland. And Matthew's Garden's watching the rugby as well too. So we may talk about sport a little bit later as well. We do love our Arnie G, and that's a good segue. Let's talk about your collaborations because we're going to be all over the shop here tonight, folks. If you're hoping for a really like on the rails kind of conversation, it's not going to be that at all. You've been collaborating with Arnie G, who is Gertrude, who is a Norwegian country folk artist, which it sounds weird, but it works. Why don't you tell the story of how that all came about, of your collaborations with the one and only Arnie G?
Yeah, well, I think this probably goes back to sort of my wider taste in music, and for those of you who understand and have followed and listened to the Indigo Sunsets, we're very indie, very rock driven, and that's my first passion, and the music that we've been putting together. But I also enjoy writing stuff that's slightly softer. I've got
Mm,
some very big influences from the likes of Neil Young, Crosby, Stills and Nash. I just, well, we were taking a bit of a break from writing the Sunset stuff. I thought it'd be a good idea for me to get better at using GarageBand, because what tends to happen is I'll dump all these tracks down, send them over to Stu. He does all the mixing. The guy has really studied the videos on your channel, Pete, but also taken time to really get to learn
mm,
how to use GarageBand, and
yeah.
to what I believe devastating effect. He's a master at it now.
Oh yeah.
But I'm not. I wasn't, because I'd be sending this stuff over. So I thought, well, how can I be a better help to Stu when Stu is able to write and record again with me? I need to learn how to do this stuff myself. I need to pay more attention to how I'm recording, how I'm editing on GarageBand. Because the poor guy, I mean, the worst job in mobile music is editing my guitars, and he's had to do that for a long time. So I started writing my own music, but I'm not a particularly strong singer. And I did one song that was a little bit countrified, I would say.
Mm,
And I just thought, you know what, I'm going to roll the dice here and ask if Auntie G would be willing to sing backing vocals on this one for me.
mm.
And I put my vocal track down, and then Auntie G did the collaboration, and we started from there. So we did that song, Seashell Wall. Then we did another one where I wanted Auntie G just to purely sing on it. And she came up with this brilliant concept where she wrote the melody. So it was a house from 24, where she wrote the melody for the vocals and came up with a theme of her own home in Norway, where she found this newspaper buried within one of the walls. And the song tells a story of that newspaper, but also her hopes and dreams for the house and her family. And I thought it was a beautiful song, and I was so pleased to be able to write the music for that. And then Auntie G said, "Do you want to play guitars on one of mine?" And that's when I really panicked, because, as you mentioned, Auntie G is predominantly country music. And
Mm,
I thought, what? How am I going to do this? I just thought, do you know what? She's asked me to play guitar. Let's just be Andy on that track. And I played the
mm,
guitars and the bass for Auntie G on Heart for Sale. And it's a bit more rockier than what people are used to with Auntie G. But
mm,
what I like to think
mm.
that's done is showed everybody else, Auntie G isn't just that country one trick pony. She's a really, really accomplished singer, a really great artist. And that song, yeah, much rockier than her usual stuff. But I was really, really proud to be part of that. So that's how that collaboration came about. And again, it's just being brave enough to ask that question. You know, do you want to perform on my track? And I think off the back of that, now Auntie G herself has gone out and reached out to the likes of Gary Hubbs to play bass on her latest song, which is incredible, and just the mark of this community as well, that we're all here
Mm.
to work together and collaborate, and even if it's just sharing ideas or asking somebody else comments on a mix and trusting somebody's ear. I've
Yeah.
done that for Glenn Clark before. Now he shared a track with me. Just to get my opinion on what I thought. I mean, I was always going to say it was awesome, because there's nothing Glenn Clark that doesn't do that isn't awesome. But
It's
it's
true.
just a mark of the community, and yeah, really, really pleased to have done what I did with Gertrude.
Oh, it's inspirational, and you're right. Like it's super cool when I see folks that I know from this community that are like coming together, because as you mentioned, like I don't know if we mentioned it here or in in the pre-show, but the very first Your Music Live we played one of Stu's songs, Chapter 6, and then Indigo Sunsets have featured predominantly, like right throughout, like a plenty of the tracks from the album have been played, some of them multiple times on Your Music Live on our show here, and then to see you pop up, and I mentioned just previously that yeah, you'll say, "Oh, Pete, I'm working on a new song," and then like a week later you'll be like, "And here's the finished product." And it's just yeah, it's very you're a very prolific creator, and then to see and to hear what you're doing with other artists now, it's yeah, it's pretty motivational. And in fact, we'll talk about that in a moment about collaborating, because obviously, yeah, the topic of this is studio to live, and I'll let you tell the story of what's happened sort of I won't say post the C word because look, we're still all amongst it. But as things are starting to open up more, and you've been able to get out and play live again, and how that's been going. But we've got a few more folks to say g'day to, and you've actually got some questions to answer. So I put it out there. We don't always get questions on this show, but I think people want to pick your brain, Andy. But we'll say
Okay.
good day to Keonra Music over there in WA. Hope you are doing well, my friend. Who else did I see here? I'm sure there were other people that had joined us. Can't find them, but we'll go into the questions. So Jade says, any tips on growing petunias? Any gardening tips for anyone out there, Andy?
I'm really surprised Jade's even asked that question, because if Jade has been paying attention to my gardening prowess, I'm a roses guy, not petunias, Jade. So I've got tips on pruning roses, but not petunias.
Well, there you go. I expect that video to be on your channel. By the way, Andy's channel is down below. We don't know if there's any rose pruning tips down there yet, but watch this space. Go and subscribe because you never know what you're going to get. What are some of your who are some of your favourite, meaning inspiring, within the indie community here? So you mentioned a couple there. You mentioned Gary Hubbs and you mentioned Arnie G. Obviously Stu and the Indigo Sunsets and yourself. You all do good stuff. Anyone else that comes to mind within this community that you dig, that you gain inspiration from, Andy?
Oh, this is a really dangerous question, because you run the risk of
Who are
missing
you going to miss?
somebody out who you really, really admire. It is genuinely frightening. And obviously, Pete, you are the guy that led us to home recording. So I have to say, you and your channel has been the inspiration, because without you, Pete, we wouldn't have the Indigo Sunsets. That's the bottom line. It's as simple as that.
Checks in
And
the
the same
mail.
can be
Love it.
said for Jade Star.
Oh, true.
The same can be said for Jade. I mean, Jade's been so,
Yep.
so supportive. She's been featuring us all week on her channel, How to App on iOS.
Mm.
And again, it's just the support, and the fact that Jade as well has mastered some of our songs, and has been willing to put the time in to do that, has meant the world to us. Other artists as well. I mean, I've mentioned Glenn Clark a couple of times, and I genuinely love that guy. I just, something about his music just connects with me. Who do I need to talk to get my name on the collaboration list? Yeah.
That wasn't
Um,
deliberate, but there you go. There it is.
if I had a secretary, then I'd pass the details on. But no, Glenn, we're friends on Facebook, so let's talk. Absolutely. Um,
Absolutely. Glenn's a busy man too. He's busy Rubik's cubing and rollerblading and doing all the things that he does, and being a father and a family man and all that
he's
sort of
busy
stuff.
man.
I know. I don't know how he has the time, because he's like, if you don't know Glenn Clark, by the way, it sounds like we're being a bit flagellating here, but so many members of this community do so many good things. And yeah, if you think that Andy running marathons and then making music is impressive, which it is, Glenn Clark is like a stage actor, a prop producer, a avid rollerblader. He makes these amazing videos with stop motion friggin' animations, and I don't understand how he has enough hours in the day to do all the things that he does and remain sane. So do go check out Glenn Clark. And it's funny, I said to Glenn, because I knew I had you on this week, and I'm like, oh, we got some gaps on the next few weeks. I'm like, Glenn, you want to come on? And he's like, oh, I didn't expect him to say yeah straight away. It's just like, yeah, I've got a bit going on, Pete, but I'll let you know when I've got a free moment. I'm like, mate, that's fine. I know you got everything going on over there. So no, Glenn is an absolute prolific creator. We've got the Lily Pillies are here as well. So they are another fantastic band out of Australia here, who have done lots of good things in recent times. And I'm scrolling down. Huska, is this the earliest stream ever? Yeah. Look, time zones are messed up at the moment. Oh, like, what is going on here, Andy? Like, let's just stop and talk about this. Why is the US and the UK, the Australia? Why can't we get our schnizzle together and actually change our times at the same time? It's kind of ridiculous, yeah.
It is, and I could take a nationalistic view here and say, well, Greenwich Mean Time goes for London, so everybody just basically follows us. But I'm
We
not
should
like
just follow you.
that. No, I think if we could just settle on British summertime works for us, BST. So I think not this Sunday, but the Sunday after, our clocks go forward an hour, so we'll catch you up an hour at that point. Yeah, it's crazy. Quick story. I'm actually an hour behind everybody else, because I used to live and work in Egypt. When I flew out to Egypt,
Oh.
there was a 2-hour time difference. Then the clocks moved in the UK, but they stayed where they were in Egypt. So when I returned to the UK, rather than get my 2 hours back, I actually got 1 hour back.
Wow.
World time
That
zones. Crazy.
Time zones are nuts. Here's a good Clayton Von Kluge has got some great questions here. I'll pick this one out here. What instruments do you play well enough to record? I've never asked you this before, Andy, but you are a guitar guy. You record vocals on your own, and I know you undersell your vocals. Your vocals are actually pretty darn good. I don't say that lightly. But anything else you play? Anything you've played in the past or that you play now that you think you'd be keen to record?
Um, no, is the
Short
short
answer,
answer.
no.
No, if it's got strings, I can generally get a tune out of it. I mean, yeah,
Yep.
guitar. Yeah, I've got ukuleles with the kids. I could get a tune out of a banjo. I can play mandolin. I enjoy that.
Hmm.
Drums. I can keep a rhythm going, and my drummer showed me how to go around the kit by going caterpillar, caterpillar, caterpillar. And I was so proud of myself when I did actually go around the toms for the first time. But that's as far as it goes with that. And I love
Nice.
playing bass guitar, strangely enough, as
Mm,
well. I think that's
yeah.
people mock that as an instrument, but it's much more skilled than it. But I thought as a guitarist, jumping on the bass guitar would
Yeah.
be straightforward, but it's not. It's a completely different mindset and a completely different skill.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I can play a little bit of piano, but that sort of
Nice.
stops short. I think I can play Imagine by John Lennon is about as good as I get.
Nice.
But yeah,
Yep.
nothing too prolific.
I like it. Yeah, I think there's a couple of things. Every guitarist wants to have a bash on the drums, and I apologize to all drummers. I've said this before, but I apologize to every drummer in every band. We're sorry, but it looks like so much fun. We just have to come and bash on your drums, and we're also sorry that we don't often help you take them back to the van, and we'll do better in the future. But yeah, bass guitar. You'd think that going from six strings to four strings would just be like, oh, it's two-thirds as easy. No, it's about three times as hard to get a good sound out of a bass guitar, and you think it looks simple, but it ain't. And again, bass guitarists do not get the credit that they probably deserve, in my humble opinion. Anyway,
No, 100
uh,
percent.
yeah. Let's talk about your solo work because we actually know you know what, we'll talk about that in a moment because we're going to miss the whole point of this show, which was to talk about studio and live. And I've got on my notes here that so you've talked about this that you were a live cover band. The C word comes and you're like, crap, how do we make music? Oh, let's load GarageBand and let's collaborate and let's make movies in iMovie and let's create music that way. And then things sort of start easing up again, and you go back again live. What was that transition like for those that are like in the studio now, or we're here in our audio caves and we're dreaming of playing with a live band again at some stage in the future? What were some of kind of the hurdles and pitfalls and advice you'd have for folks going from the studio to actually going out and playing live again?
Yeah, I think first and foremost, we probably go back to the actual music production in the studio
Mm,
in the first place, and there's one thing that may have benefited me and Stu, having been live musicians previously, is when we were
mm,
writing, we always have our audience in mind. And Stu said this, and it really resonated with me when he spoke to you back in 20 on your channel, Pete, in 2020. When we write, we want to connect, we want to actually move somebody with our music, because that's exactly what we're doing. Even if we're playing other people's music, we want to give them a good night. We want to give them an
mm.
evening when they go, do you know what? I've had a great time tonight.
Yep.
And it's the same with the music that we were doing as the sunset. So when we were writing the music, I think initially, without realizing it, we probably had in the back of our mind, how is this going to sound live going forward? And
Got it.
it applies to how I record as well. And this is probably what drives Stu to distraction when I send my project stems over to him. Um, I will play one take. I will not stop and
Mm.
edit. I will just play all the way through, and I can't play to the metronome either. It's just
Oh
no
wow.
way will my little brain allow me to
You're
follow
a
that click, click, click.
you're
It
a
just doesn't
nightmare,
happen.
Andy. Oh
I
God.
know, I know. But the way around it is I will dump down Kyle. I will play the song through, which I think is kind of the rough length of the song. So
Mm.
I'll have it all, the chord structure. I'll play it through on acoustic. I'll then tap the rhythm that I think to get the beats per minute along to
Yep.
what I've just played. And then I would set Kyle or Logan up just as a scratch track.
Yep.
And that's my metronome at that point.
Nice.
I'll then splice that down. So I'll go, okay, Carl's doing the verse here, the chorus, here's the middle eight. And then all I'll do is then plug in my electric guitar or my acoustic guitar and go for my first take, and I will play it all the way through, like I'm
Nice.
playing it live. And that's the only way I can record. I can't stop, because if I stop, I lose that flow. And
Yeah.
yeah, there's mistakes in there, but they come out in the mix. Everything polishes out. I think everybody knows that.
Mm.
But that's how I always approach my recording. Is, I'll stand up and I'll actually perform it when I'm putting it into my iPhone and now my iPad.
Mm.
So that process has always worked for me, is to try and sort of get it as close to the natural environment of performing and jamming as I possibly can.
I
So
like it.
when we've done that, it's just a case of looking at how we performed it. We don't overburden the tracks too much with synths. We're very lucky from a live band, because we've got Judge, our keyboard player, who is
Mm.
he's a freak of nature. That good. He's by far the most talented member in the band in terms of the way he can play piano and organs. So we've always got that at the back of the mind when we're recording. How is this going to sound live? And I think how we apply ourselves to the actual recording process. I know Stu does this. He will stand up, and when he's singing, I've only been with him twice when he's actually laid down a track vocal, and he's properly going for it to really
Yeah.
get that sort of passion and power across.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, and it's so true. And I must admit, I've not that I deliberately took it from Stu, but I have spoken to Stu before about recording and about that whole sort of recording as if you're singing live, and getting that feeling of a live recording into it. And I must admit that I used to sing like behind a stand with a mic on a mic stand behind a pop filter, and I would just get these robotic performances and goes, "There's something very wrong about this." And then I realized that if I just grab a handheld mic like you're singing on a stage, and you just rock out and just lose yourself in the music, that can actually, even though the quality might not quite be there as much as if you were like recording with pristine conditions with the right distance and all that sort of stuff, what you get in terms of that feel and that passion can sometimes make up for any little imperfections. And I think you've probably found the same with your guitar parts, and I've definitely found the same sort of thing. I've recorded songs before where I just sort of jam on a guitar solo. I'm like, it's not quite right. It would probably sound better if I punch in and just change this note to this note, and then I try to do it, and it sounds 10 times worse. And then I go back to the original one, and I'm like, it's not perfect, but you know what it is? It's rocking, and it's cool, and it works for the song. So, yeah, it's good stuff and good advice.
Yeah, and don't overthink it either. I mean, do you want it to be polished, or do you want it to sound real? And that's the
Yep.
question people need to ask themselves. I mean, you can edit forever, and you can go back and you can re-record. And that's the beauty of what we do. It doesn't matter. As you've said, Pete, you've got unlimited takes. It doesn't matter how many
Yeah.
times you try something, but there's got to come a point where you've got that one track that you think works for the song. And I'm sort of, if I haven't nailed it by about 4 or 5 takes, I'll come away from it. I'm kind of like, well, there's no point pushing it. But
Yeah.
what I won't do is go back and then try and polish it up later. And Stu can
Yeah.
attest to this with the quality of some of my recordings. But it has to sound real. It has to sound alive to me.
Mm.
And we did that song "Let Me In." That, if you hear, there's guitar notes playing all the way through that, and that
Mm.
is one take all the way through. It's the only way I could do it to get my mind and myself happy with the performance, would to
Yeah.
go from start to finish, just constantly playing everything all the way through. And there's a couple of blips. If I could go back and do it again, I would do, but it serves the song. And yeah, it's not perfect, but it's real, and it sounds good in my opinion.
I like it. Stu's being cheeky here. He's saying his windows are steaming up there. It's getting a bit warm in the room there, mate. I've got I've got the beauty of having an air conditioning. You don't have air conditioning in the UK, do you? It's not really a thing.
No, it's called a window. Just
A good question that'll lead into sort of the next thing we want to talk about, which is around promotion and getting your music out there and getting it heard, and radio play and other things that I know that you and Stu and have worked on with the Indigo Sunsets, and now with your solo stuff. But in terms of visuals and videos for your music, you guys are pretty renowned for having some pretty interesting videos and things. And I know Stu puts a lot of the work into that sort of stuff. And again, because Stu, sorry, you're a nerd, mate. I know you're a rocker, but you're also a nerd and a geek, and you learn this stuff, and you're an absolute student of it. So I know you've learnt your ass off with iMovie and LumaFusion now, I think. But how do you go about creating the visuals and the videos for your videos so that you can get your songs out there and get them played more?
Oh, this is Jay Star and a green screen concept to thank for this. I mean, yeah, we use LumaFusion,
Yep.
and it is just basically setting up the green scheme. The video we did for Never Leave Me, I had to go round to Stu's. He got his garage door open, green screen set up. There I am. And his neighbours are watching me. They're stood on the street actually looking in as he's filming me on an iPhone.
Love it. Love it.
So that was that's probably why I look quite grumpy on that video. The song that let me in, yeah, again green screen, but I hung the green screen up on my patio, which is just outside the window here. It was a nice sunny day, and I thought natural light would be the best light. And then I had, at the time, she was 10, my daughter with an iPad just filming as I played along to the song on my other iPhone, just listening to it.
Yep.
There we go. Sent the rushes off to Stu. It's dead straightforward. Then you get the footage and images that you can transpose onto the background and make it look good in the edit. It's as simple as that. So yeah, it's again, Stu does a lot of that. You know, he's a LumaFusion master, and that you're right in what you say. He is a nerd. He does sit down and learn everything, and yeah, he's but he does a fine job, and I think if I tried it as well, I'd probably come back with a sheet full of, how can I put it? Yeah, little comments and adjustments. So it's probably best just to leave Stu to do the video.
Let him do his thing. Yeah, I love it. I've lost my point. Mr. Smith says, "Yeah, look, how has he managed to make it sunny here in the UK for an interview is beyond me." Yeah, like we're flabbergasted that we've picked the few minutes of sun that the UK is going to get for the entire month of March, and it's right now apparently. So there you go.
It's the shirt.
It's the shirt that's bringing it in. Yeah. By the way, we've mentioned it a few times, but if you do want to go and check out, here is the boys in action. This is the Indigo Sunsets, and this is a bit of their green screen work and the video editing there, and it really does attest to the fact that. It doesn't have to be perfect. Like, if you rock it out, you can do it in. Like, I don't believe, like you said before, I don't believe in fixing your music in post. But you know what you can do with a video? You can do what you're doing here. Like, all you got is a transparency of Andy shredding on guitar in the background, and then you've got Stu in the foreground jumping around and pointing at stuff and singing his songs. And it just works. Like a music video, if you watch any music video, it's just people playing instruments and jumping around with a bunch of effects going on in the background. So you yourself can do that with a green screen and an iPad and LumaFusion and a $30 app, and you're away, right? It's no harder than that, is it?
Yeah, 100%, 100%. And we have to do that because we're not blessed like Gary Hubbs to have a car park of the quality he's got over there in Canada. I mean, that car park, we have things like called blue plaques here in the UK. When somebody famous lived in a particular building, they put a blue plaque up above that, and they've got an equivalent in Canada. They need to put one up in that car park for Gary.
It is right. And look, if you don't know Gary Hubbs, a member of this community who is probably fast asleep because he's a family man. He's living in Canada and it's about 4 a.m. Where he is. But yeah, Gary, when you're watching on the replay, Gary in his parking lot will go down in history as one of the greatest plays because Gary does his music, he does his filming, he does everything. He probably smokes cigarettes and drinks beers and he does everything in that parking lot. And I'm like, one of these days, I want to go to that parking lot. I want to go to Canada. I want to go watch some hockey with Gary and then go and hang out in the parking lot. Let's talk a little bit more about your solo work, and because I mean, many folks that are playing in bands, the old thing of how do you balance out what you do solo, what do you bring to the band and say, hey, this is a song for the band, or this is a lick, or this is a guitar part that the band can use, and then this is a song I'm just going to work on myself. Many of us that have played in bands and have played solo before have probably come across this quandary. How does that work out for you, Andy?
That's quite a difficult question for me to answer because I've known Stu for so many years. I know what he likes and what he'd hate. So it's
all the stuff Stu hates is Andy's.
So the whole reason for me doing the solo stuff purely was for me to keep my hand in and for me to get better at recording. I wasn't even going to release it. In fact, I've recorded some stuff I haven't even released, and I'm not planning to. It's just purely for me to learn my own way around GarageBand a little better, so I could be more of a help for Stu. So there wasn't any idea of me going off and to sort of make a name for self on my own. That wasn't the thought. So in terms of how do I pick a song that is suitable for me, it's knowing instinctively what will work for me, what will suit my vocals for a start.
Yeah.
Okay, I cheated slightly when I did the collab with Auntie G because I wrote something I knew would be in Auntie G style originally.
Yeah.
I couldn't really imagine Stu singing that song, Seashell Wolf, for crying out loud. It's such a twee title, he wouldn't really suit it.
You'd be like, what's this
um,
bollocks?
yeah, pretty much. No, he's a little bit more tactful than that.
He is. Oh, look, no,
Basically
I know.
2 words, last one off.
Those that know Stuart and watch he's an absolute gentleman, Stu. But I'm taking the piss because it's fun to do so, and he's not here to defend himself. But sorry, carry on, Andy.
No, not at all, not at all. And I think that the biggest fear factor, I think, going back to the Indigo Sunset stuff, was it was me and Stu who'd written the music. So the solo stuff, I know what's for me. I know what works, suits my voice. Yes, Stu does love country. In fact, he's got the world's biggest collection of Fosters and Allen albums as well. I've seen out there. Nobody knows who they
Fosters and
are. Google
Allen,
them.
that's a deep cut. My parents had Fosters and Allen's records. Anyway, sorry.
And he's got the jumpers to match. And the
Cardigans of galore.
No, I think the going back to what me and Stu found very difficult was actually taking the Sunset stuff to the band for the first time. They were obviously well aware that we'd been recording, well aware that we'd released an album. We hoped they'd been listening to it because we basically went over to them and said, well, we want to start playing this stuff live and go away and learn your parts. And I think on my channel, I haven't shared this on the Indigo Sunsets one, but I think I did it purely for posterity. Is the first ever run through we did of Last Man Standing, and then the first ever gig we did is the Indigo Sunsets playing Never Leave Me, which is up on my channel, so people want to see how we launched into that. But it was very, very difficult. And I think that musically, it's pretty straightforward because if you've got musicians in the room who know what they're doing, they'll pick up the drums pretty quickly. There we go. First, this and that, the Indigo Sunsets. That's what I'm talking about. Drummer will pick up things quickly. We've got a great bass player, Josh. Jazz is just a maestro on keys, and obviously me and Stu. You'd hope we know the songs by now. The whole idea behind that was just to take the guys to a studio and run through the songs with them for the first time. The music came pretty straightforward. It's more how do you include 3 of the guys in your music and make it feel like they own the songs as well. And that's been the tricky part because we didn't want them to feel that we're playing Andy and Stu songs. We wanted to feel like it's the Indigo Sunsets and they are members of the Indigo Sunsets, and that's the hard part.
And look, to be honest, that's sorry, as Josh came, sorry, Josh, as Josh came on, I put the thing away. There you go. There's your drummer, who is Ben
Bev
or Bev. Bev.
Yep. Okay. We love Bev. He's actually he's Andy as well, but I was in the band first, so he has to use his.
Bev. So he'd be Bevan, Andy Bevan.
That's right.
Something like that. Yeah, there you go. See, yeah. So, very, very cool. So go. Sorry, I was getting lost in that. I hadn't actually seen that video before. There you go. Oh, there's your keys player. Sorry. Oh, hang on. Got Jai.
Judge.
There you go. Judge.
It's Jared, but we call him Judge. Yeah, I should have used a different font actually. See what I mean?
I was going to say that font's struggling with me, mate.
That's why I leave the video editing to Stu.
Well, I'll have to watch that because I've not actually ever seen that. I've seen most of what you've got, but on your channel. But there you go. So, what I was about to say is that everyone needs to go over and subscribe to your channel. So, those that are here live, jump on over there. I expect that 36 to be 40 plus by the end of the show. If it's not, I'll be having a long and very stern talk with all of you. But yeah, go over and subscribe to Andy's music there. There's obviously lots of cool stuff, behind the scenes stuff, and all of the music that you're working on there, solo and collaborations as well, as we've talked about, which is very cool. Lots of talk about drummers. as soon as I mention drummers, I think the drummers come out of the woodwork and people talk about their drummers and what they do. And Guzzo says, why are drummers so important? Answer, someone has to talk to the roadies. I miss those drummer jokes. Yeah, drummer jokes, you know what, they're low-hanging fruit, and I actually respect drummers and appreciate all drummers. Jade Starr plays drums on most of my songs, and Jade is amazing at playing drums, so I will never say
And this is
a
this
drummer
is
joke.
this is one for the mobile community actually, and this is very important. Is what's the difference between a real drummer and a drum machine itself? And that is you only have to punch the instructions once into your drum machine.
Oh, hang on. I wish I had a drum. I wish I had a dum. I was gonna have a rim shot, but my drummer is out the back smoking weed. It's true. Like if you're trying to program Kyle, you just say Kyle, follow the bass. And if you're trying to program, no, I won't say the name of your drummer because that would be cruel. But if you're trying to program a real drummer, you just like follow the no that bass. No, the bass guitar is the one with 4 strings. Okay, sorry. Okay, we'll move on from that. Sorry, I'm going to go to the next one. You, you and the Indigo Sunsets. When you were on Jade Starr's channel, and I watched this video, it's got to be close to a year ago, maybe 6 months to a year ago. Jade interviewed you, and you chatted about radio play and getting your music out there through promotion. And I know that's one thing, and we've got about 15 minutes left. I know that's one thing that a lot of people are really struggling with. They're like, okay, I've learnt GarageBand or whatever platform I'm going to record on. I know how to create my music, I know how to record my music, I know how to release my music using DistroKid or any inferior distribution platform you'd like to choose. But then what? Then how do you get your stuff out there? How do you engage with people? So in your experience, Andy, in a few minutes and a few words, what advice do you have for folks about actually promoting your music once it's done, once you've got that single or that EP or that album out there? What next?
Yeah, quick answer. Go to Jade's channel and check out the interviews I did with her because there's a lot of information.
Very good answer. A lot of information. I'll find it while you chat and give the summary. I'll find the interview and throw it in the chat here for folks.
Brilliant. But no, I think this is probably the hardest part. This is the hard work because it really is about researching radio stations. There are a lot of internet radio stations out there. If you're in the UK, we've got the option of submitting stuff to things like BBC Introducing, which is a good route to go down. Really just getting yourself organized, all your marketing material organized, all of your do your research on the radio stations. Again, little tips like, don't tap up a hip hop station when you're trying to do indie rock. It's, you need to be clear that you are following the right path. Again, we've mentioned Auntie G. She's absolutely legendary now at getting radio play because she's got herself organized. She's got a list of stations. She's got all her marketing material set up. When she comes to do a release, she does it properly. She makes sure the stations have a copy of the song. It's another thing that helps as well. Get a Twitter account. A lot of these stations are on Twitter, and that's a good way of interacting with with audiences and with other musicians who sit outside maybe the GarageBand units. Oh my goodness me! Yeah, there I am. And it really is. It's a complicated process. It's a long-winded process, but it's really worth it. I mean, we're still getting airplay now. Indigo Sunsets. We haven't released anything in quite a while, but we're still getting average about 4 or 5 plays a week on internet radio stations all over the world, which is beyond awesome. Yeah. And another thing that came off the back of it as well, we've placed, and this is something we love this for the wider GarageBand community as well, is we didn't ask to be put in for an award. There's a radio station called Radio Wigwam that did an online music award. It was acts from all over the world. And we found out we'd been included in the category for Best Indie Rock Band of 2021. And I was bowled over by being included because they're bands that have got great audiences and they've done really well in terms of their recording, but they haven't used GarageBand. And we placed second. I couldn't believe the Indigo Sunsets came second in that. So, but for us to do what we're doing on the phones shows that it translates well across the radio and does hold up in these little award ceremonies that happen as well. So don't ever have an inferiority complex when it comes to what kit you're using to record on either. Just go out there confident to know that GarageBand will work. Its sound quality is good enough. and it will
Mm.
stand out when you play it on the radio. In fact, sometimes it will shine out even more than other songs you'll be listening to.
It's true, and I know. Look, we've talked about this before, and I know that you agree with this statement, which is that people that are listening to music, and you said it before, you connect with it. You connect with that live feel, that groove, that it's got to ignite some sort of feeling and passion in you, and that's the important part. Very few people are listening to a song going, "Oh, I wonder what platform they mixed this in, or I wonder what they mastered this in, or I wonder what DAW they recorded these tracks in." They're just saying, "Does this song rock?" or not. And if it does, then they don't care. So whether you're recording in $1 million studio and you've got Pro Tools rig, or whether you're recording on your phone using GarageBand, it really doesn't matter. If you're actually connecting with someone on a one-to-one level, then that's a good thing. And clearly, what you and Andy have done, and what you're doing with your music, and what Arnie G does with the collaboration he's doing, what everyone in this community is doing, is connecting with someone. And if you can connect with one person, or 10 people, or 100 people, or 1,000 people, that's what music's all about to me. So I know I'm getting a bit, get your violins out, and that's that sort of stuff. But it's true. It's what happens. Glenn Clark's got a great question here. Did you have any Indigo Sunsets songs you were unable to translate to a live environment? Now, Stu's already answered it. I don't know if you saw Stu's answer, so I'm not going to show you that. But I'm going to see what your answer is, and we'll see if they align. This will be interesting.
There's probably another flower in the yard for a beginner. There's no way that's ever getting played live, because that's the one I sing. So that's not happening. And the one that would struggle to work, probably Sirens, because that's quite a slow melodic song. But no, everything else, it kind of goes well for a live audience. I mean, Never Leave Me. It sounds different, but it sounds. I'm not going to say better, because that's wrong, but it just sounds different live, more punky than it does on the actual original. Okay. So I enjoy playing that. But no, but I think for what doesn't translate live, Another Flower in the Yard is never getting aired again, and Sirens Don't Sing For Me wouldn't work well.
Another Flower in the Yard is amazing.
It's twee. It's typical Andy.
Oh no, it is
gold. What did Stu put?
So what Stu said was Raging Waterfall. It needs 2 overdriven guitars and an acoustic, so we couldn't get the feel we wanted. So apparently Raging Waterfall, Stu says. So you think that Raging Waterfall works live, Andy?
I thought it wasn't how we wanted it to be, but I think we can work on it, Stu. I think it's more the application of the others, I think, and understanding how to get. I think we can do something with it. I think we definitely can. But yeah, it's right. We did play it, and for the song that everybody on the community loves, we played it for the first time at an outdoor gig at a pub called the Swan in Chaddesley Corbett. We got this big field, loads of people, all nicely socially distanced, and we played it, and we got this typical. The end. Anyway, here's the Beatles.
But and look, that's a good question actually, because as someone like I do a live show once a week just to keep my chops, and I've been doing it since the start of the C Word, and we're more than 2 years in now. I only wanted to do it for a few weeks, but I do a live happy hour show for an hour every week where I just sort of play some acoustic covers, and I've learnt upwards of 300 songs, and it's interesting that people that don't know me and my music love hearing the covers. People that know me and my music love hearing the originals. And I'd imagine it's probably similar for the Indigos. How do you navigate and negotiate that? Have you ever been up there playing originals and not getting a response and going, right, we better play some bloody Beatles then, I guess, and then people get into it and you feel sad? Like how as a live band do you navigate that whole originals versus covers vibe?
I think it's all about building the set. You mix the two in together. It's as simple as that, really. We're not playing venues yet where people are paying money to come and see purely the Indigo Sunsets, paying money at the door to come in and listen to the album. We're still in that process, because live music still is just getting back into the swing of things again over here. And we've been very grateful to get pubs. Last Saturday, we were playing somebody's private birthday party. So that was all covers, for example. But when we do go out, it is still being mindful that we're there to entertain people. They want to hear the music they're familiar with, but it's kind of, okay, that Never Leave Me will go nicely in the second set. It will go between maybe Common People by Pulp and Live
Yeah.
Forever by Oasis. Will slot it in there. And it's about just building into the set like you would do with any other cover, and going with the confidence that they may have never heard it before, but it's a good song. So perform it with the same
Mm.
confidence as you would do for anything else.
Yeah. It's good advice. Yeah, just yeah, and a lot of it does come down to that. Does come down to that confidence, which I know that again, a lot of us bedroom musicians and home studio creators, it's hard to get that confidence up, and it's why communities like this one, and again, with 5 minutes left here, is why it's so important that we have these communities and that we have these chats. Like the whole point, the whole reason I started this show, like this show is now a year old. Like Jade and myself sat here in this room together a year ago because the Adelaide Fringe was happening. Jade was over here. It was in the brief period of time where the C word was not rampant throughout Australia. We actually had things under control, and then more variants came. But yeah, we started this show because we wanted to just talk directly to creators, and we wanted to get folks like yourself in here to inspire folks and to show people that you can actually just get stuff done. Like there's plenty of reasons why you can't, but there's also very much ways that you actually can get things done. So in the last 4 minutes here, before we finish up here, I ask everyone at the end of this show, what advice you would have for people starting out that are maybe are a little bit hesitant, that maybe are just sort of struggling. And you answered this question 18 months ago, and I completely forget what you said at the time because you and Stu both answered this question. But for anyone that's sitting there right now that's watching live or watching on the replay that is a little bit hesitant and doesn't want to share their stuff or thinks that their creations aren't good enough, what advice do you have, Andy?
Yeah, it's difficult because we are all conscious, every single one of us. I am. I overthink. I think everything I'm doing is rubbish. Nobody's going to like it, and we all go through these emotions. Every single one of us does, and we'd be lying if we didn't, or probably too arrogant for our music to be any good if we
Mm,
did. And if you're just starting out, go and listen to people within this community first and foremost. Get yourself on the Facebook pages. Don't be shy to ask questions.
mm, yep.
And there'll be people willing to help out and support you. Um, get to know people as well. I mentioned earlier, Glenn sending me a song to listen to, just to put my ears to it, because that helps you out as well. Having somebody else come back with constructive feedback and ideas that could only enhance your music further. So if you're just starting out, it's really listen to the other people, get involved in the community. Don't be shy either, because there's so many great people. If you get somebody on the Facebook groups who's been a bit of an arsehole, trust me, they get sorted out very, very quickly and chopped off. We're in some great community groups at the moment. So, just ask the questions, get involved, listen to other people's music as well.
Yeah.
Celebrate when other people release music, because you kind of feel like you've been on the journey with them. So people will put an idea into a Facebook group, we'll listen to it, and then a couple of weeks later, oh, here's the final master. Then it's released. We all jump on a YouTube premiere and celebrate the fact that they've released their song together. So don't be shy of joining the communities. Don't be shy of learning from others, and don't be shy of asking questions. And the thing is, you will only get better because you will start up and it won't sound as good as everybody else's music. Of course,
Mm.
it won't, because you're just starting out. But the only way to improve is to do it more and do it more and more and learn from other people, borrow ideas, try things out for yourself. And then suddenly things start to come together. And yeah, next thing you know, you've got an album and you're on Pete John's show talking about mobile creation.
Yeah, look, and it's true that I think a lot of folks are hesitant about that because of, and again, the communities that we have around here, the Facebook groups, the YouTube, the people around here are all cool. You've seen them here in the live show here. You'll see them in the comments below. The folks in the UK, the US and Canada who weren't able to join us here live. I guarantee you that if you go down to the comments right now, there'll be a bunch of cool folks like Gary Hubbs and Thomas Christ and people that will be commenting on this video because they're cool people. And they will help you out. And that's the thing. I think that, there's not many places in the world where people will just help you with no reciprocity required. Like, you don't have to sit there and worry that what do these people want? Is it like, are these like the bad social media people that, if I give them my information, they're going to try and steal it or take it from me? I just haven't heard that. I don't know about you, but I don't know about anyone watching here live, but I just don't hear about that. Like, there is no people, oh, I'm going to steal your music, or I'm going to tell you that you're terrible. And like you say, when that does happen, in the very rare occasion, those people are not around very long, because we've got some fantastic moderators in this community that make sure that things are kept in line. So I second and completely reinforce that. So that is it. We're at an hour. Can you believe we've been chatting for an hour, mate? We've watched the
That's crazy,
sun.
isn't it?
It went behind a cloud for like 5 minutes, but you've had sunshine. I'm gonna have to let you go and enjoy some of that sunshine, and hopefully actually get out there, mate, because it looks like it's amazing there. Are there any final words that you have for the folks here today, about creating, about live versus studio, about anything that you wanted to close out the show with?
I just, again, just reiterate what a supportive bunch everybody is. And I feel really bad because I haven't mentioned so many people who actually become quite an important part of my life, certainly musically. Yeah, just everybody just keep doing what you're doing, keep creating, because I need new music. I don't get my music anymore from the mainstream. I'm waiting for you guys to release it. And when I go back and start
Impressive.
doing some work in a minute, I'll start my Amazon Alexa device off and I'll be sat there listening to you lot, because that's all I listen to these days. Just wonderful to
It's
be
true.
part of the community. Thank you everybody so much for giving me the airtime and gracing me with your presence, listening to my music and all the great comments that we've had. And yeah, me and Stu will be back on it at some point this year. You will hear some more Indigo Sunsets. So hopefully before the end of 2022, we'll have a second album. No
Love it.
pressure, Stuart.
No, no pressure, Stuart. Love it. I didn't ask that question specifically because I'm like, I don't want to put any pressure on our friend Stu, but yes, I know that's what the fans are wanting. They're just like, where is the next Indigo Sunsets album? And yeah, people are champing at the bit. I think the champing is the correct word. Go over and subscribe to Andy, to the Indigo Sunsets. All of the links are down in the description. I'm ranting with Jade tomorrow as well, as Jade's just put in the chat there. So in 10 hours time, I got to get some beauty rest because I'll be joining Jade for a rant. I'm sure we'll recap on all the stuff that we've talked about here today, as well as ranting about a whole bunch more stuff over on Jade's channel as well. But huge thank you to my friend Andy, and to everyone here for being here. It's always a fun time. This is my favorite time of the week because we just get to shoot the breeze and talk music and talk creating. It's a lot of fun. So on behalf of my guest, Andy Goldsby, thank you all for being here. Please, this week, be kind to yourselves, be kind to others, keep creating, and we'll see you real soon. Thanks, guys. Bye for now.